what are some other things that people can do when they're not on the golf course, or they have months of winter ahead of them, that they could get on the golf course in March or April, or when they go on a golf trip this winter? Like, what are some things that they could do to kind of be ready for that first tee when that comes around again, those sweet spring days?
Yeah, you gotta do it. You gotta make the most of that off season, like we were joking about before we hit record. You gotta have that. And I mean, even on the swing piece, real quick, like, I couldn't agree more. This is the time to make lessons. I had to make a swing change in the middle of my tournament season. I had just such a tough year, and it was because I just did not take my off season seriously enough last year, and all of a sudden some bad habits crept in, and then I'm trying to change my grip, which anybody that's changed the grip knows that sucks. And there were some other issues too, but I mean, that was the overwhelmingly tough one, which then you're playing half old, half new. You know, you're just getting into old habits, and they're so tough sometimes to fix. So getting ahead of that. So one thing is just buying a grip trainer and putting it on an old golf club and just making some practice swings. Say, hey, I'm going to make 300 practice swings this week. You know, Hank Haney always said to do 100 a day. Like, set some sort of goal. I think setting goals is good. Working on your swing is good. Even if you don't hit a single ball, do some practice swings. Keep your golf muscles active. Preferably, though, set up a net if you can, or find a simulator like we talked about. This is a great time to get those lessons and work with someone online too, that you can just say, send them a video, they send you stuff back. Like, online lessons have changed the game for sure. So even if you live in a remote area, you can still improve. So I'd say the swing stuff, definitely key. Mental stuff, though, and short game stuff. First thing, mental wise, we briefly touched on it, is get clear about who you are. Who do you want to be? So go through your stats this year. I think that's the first thing I always recommend, is look at the numbers. Like, what was our average? What was our tournament average? What was our par 3, par 4, par 5? What was our driving distance, fairways, greens, all that stuff? Figure that out. Okay, so then we know where we're at, and then get clear about, okay, well, where do we want to be? So let's say we have someone, they shoot 83 on average, and their goal is to get to a 5 handicap next year. Then they're at, let's say a 15 or something right now. Okay, so you want to get that. So getting clear on your goals is so key. So then we can build the self-image, and then we can have those practice habits to actually set you up. So we get clear and say, hey, I want to be a 5 handicap. Well, 5 handicap does XYZ. They hit it this far. Okay, first thing, well, there's 30 yards difference of distance off the tee. Maybe you should start speed training. Maybe you should work out. Maybe you should start doing some flexibility. So the Wicked Smart Golf approach is not just mental. You could have the best mental game in the world, but if you hit it 220 and you 4-putt every green, it doesn't matter how good your mental game is. So that's like, I just got this scathing 1-star review about the book, and it was like, he talks about more than the mental game. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like that, I guess that is the whole thing. Because like I said, I know people that are great mentally, but they can't break 100. And again, not judging, but that's why it is a process. So mentally, to me, it's learning how to prepare off the course. It's learning, man, I got to make better decisions. Man, I got to hit it longer. And being honest with yourself and just knowing yourself and who you are. So I think that's key. And then again, saying, okay, I do want to be a 5 handicap. Literally write down, I call it the future self exercise. So we say, hey, here's my current self. What does my future self do? And say, hey, current self, he gets mad. He throws clubs. Future self, calm, cool, collected. Current self, warms up maybe 10, 15 minutes. Future self, 30 minutes. I have a consistent routine. I do a warm up before every round. Previous self, does nothing after the round. Future self does something for 20 minutes. Maybe you even hit range if it's a really bad day, or you do a post-round recap. So start to create it and then read it consistently. A lot of people are coming up on, New Year's, and we get all excited. Use that motivation to actually improve your golf game, but don't just set goals and never look at them. Like, that's one of the biggest mistakes I made, is like, my mind can run wild with everything I want to do, but then I'd put them in a drawer and never look at them again. So it's like your subconscious needs repetition. That's the only way we retrain this thing. So figure out who you want to be, figure out what goals you want to set, and go after it, but remind yourself. So every morning I have at least 10, 15 minutes, very intentional. I either do the breathing that we talked about, I either do a meditation practice, I'll look at my goals, I'll read some affirmations, little things like this start to plant the seeds of what we can do, and it doesn't take hours and hours and hours. I've had a lot of mental experts obviously on my show, and the number one thing that everybody says is have some sort of mindfulness practice, some sort of meditation. You could do an app, you could do just sitting in a room quietly and observing your thoughts, kind of like we talked about a little earlier, like, hey, these thoughts are coming back and forth, like, hey, am I judging them? What kind of thoughts are they? just spending some time, again, 10, 15 minutes. We're not saying this has to be an hour and you're, meditating above the clouds and anything like that. But I used to scoff at this stuff. I thought it was total BS, and it's made a massive impact on my life and so many people that I've talked with. I mean, if it works for Tiger, if it works for Phil, maybe it's worth trying in your own game. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. And then lastly, I would just say to putt more. Even if the weather's terrible, buy an indoor putting mat and set a daily or weekly goal and say, hey, I'm going to make 50 putts. I'm going to make 100 putts.